calling for even greater.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
Equal, I'm not
Magnificent
ready.
mosaic that is America.
Radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
The pregnant mother in Texas who went to court seeking an emergency abortion has now gone to another state to get one. That's according to her lawyers. Kate Cox's decision came hours before the Texas Supreme Court ruled she did not qualify for a medical exception to the state's near-total abortion ban. Janet Shamlian has more on the decision in this first-of-its-kind court challenge.
The all-Republican Texas Supreme Court, in ruling against Kate Cox, said in part, some difficulties in pregnancy, even serious ones, do not pose the heightened risk to the mother needed to qualify for a medical exception to the state's abortion ban. Later adding, Cox's doctor failed to show her condition poses the risks the exception requires.
It shows that exceptions to bans on abortion do not work.
Nancy Northrup is the president and CEO of the Center for Reproductive Rights, which is representing Cox.
Texas is saying, we're not going to let you access abortion care, even though your doctor, in their good faith medical judgment, says that's the right thing to do.
I am going to grant the temporary restraining order.
A Democratic judge approved Cox's request for an abortion last week after the 31-year-old mother of two learned her fetus had a likely fatal genetic condition and that carrying it to term could hurt her chances of pregnancy in the future. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton filed a petition to temporarily stay that decision, sparking protests.
Stand for Kate Cox! Stand for women's rights!
On Monday, after Cox's legal team revealed she was seeking abortion care outside of Texas, the state Supreme Court sided with the Attorney General.
There are going to be other women over and over again.
CBS News legal analyst Ricky Kleeman says Cox's case, the first to see a woman go to court seeking an abortion since Roe v. Wade was overturned, won't be the last.
They will happen in states all across the country until this issue is ultimately decided as to what is part of this medical exception, whether it's in Texas or elsewhere.
Elsewhere. I mean, oh my God. So the Texas Supreme Court said no. I didn't really understand the whole keep calm and carry on thing, and now I do. Now I do. Now I get it. You have to keep calm and carry on with a fatal pregnancy. You have to keep calm and carry on, even if it takes your life at the end. You have to keep calm and carry on because Ken Paxton said so. Can you believe this? You know, I mean, listen, I know yesterday we were ahead of the news, but honestly, you could see this coming a mile away. Every single person on the Texas Supreme Court is a misogynist. Every single one wants control over grown-ass women. You're talking about a grown woman, a 31-year-old grown woman, mother of two, has to go and beg a court to allow her to make a medical decision. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just so sorry. The only good thing about that protest is I do want to stand on the street corner and scream, stand for Cox. I do. Brings back memories. I used to work for the Cox sisters at the Cox Broadcasting Company. And I used to wear a sign around my neck when I wanted to get hired to do the talk show thing because I was a music jock back then. And I wanted them to hire me for the AM talk station. I literally would walk up and down the hallway. I know this is really bad, really bad. Some people are going to be very, very upset about how completely politically inappropriate this was. But I did it. And I used to have a sign, like a sandwich board that said, I will work for Cox. Hello, got hired. It's what it took, baby. It's what it took. All right, so she can't have an abortion. So here we're supposed to be happy about this little factoid, okay? You ready for this? You ready for where the happiness is in this story? Oh, God. The happiness in this story lies in the fact that Texas doesn't have a travel ban. Did I just say that? I'm not kidding. This is what they're telling me on the TV I should actually rejoice about during this great festive festival of lights, this, Jesus is the reason for the season, kind of a Christmassy thing or a Frosty the Snowman sort of a celebration. I'm supposed to take joy in the fact that Texas doesn't have a travel ban for pregnant women. Now, I want you to understand that there's really only one state that does, but it's a real thing. I would say there's one state and a tiny little snippet of Texas, right? So Idaho, I swear to God, Idaho has a travel ban for women. Pregnant women are not allowed to leave Idaho. I mean, what are we doing here? This is like she can't travel without a close male relative. I mean, what is the dealio here? How freaking Sharia do you want to get? How completely orthodox are you willing to go in this here free country? Because that is really a thing in Idaho. That the little part of Texas, we used to do when I worked in Odessa. I used to say, at the top of the hour we had to ID the station. I'm very nostalgic today. I'll tell you why in a minute. But at the top of the hour, you used to have to ID the station. So I worked on a station called KUFO, believe it or not. The UFO. I worked on the UFO. But it was a great rock station. Flamethrower. Great. Just amazing. I loved working there. But at the top, you'd have to say KUFO, Odessa, Midland, and a tiny piece of Nacogdoches. Okay? And swear to God. And so now I'm looking to see where the travel ban is, and I see, the whole state of Idaho. Yay, Idaho. Good for you. Free state, right? It's like, you're like, a militiaman there, right? But women belong to you. Okay, great. But a tiny little snippet, a tiny little piece of Texas. Lubbock, Texas, the county of Lubbock, the whole county, prohibits pregnant women from traveling on their roads if they're trying to leave the state. What? But this is the good news, everybody. This is what we're supposed to be celebrating. We're supposed to be celebrating the good part of this story where the Texas Supreme Court told this woman, Kate Cox, a grown woman who has 2 children already, you're going to have to give up your uterus. Too bad for you. Too bad for you. You don't meet the strict standard, oh my God, for an emergency intervention in your pregnancy. To end that pregnancy, you will have to leave the state. Well, thank God there is no travel ban in Texas. See how that's like the happy part of the story. So she did flee Texas, but she had to do it without telling, anybody where she was going. Why? Because they have a vigilante law in Texas. The homework today is titled, "You messed with Texas and now you can't live there." And you can't. And I'll tell you why. Ken Paxton was so adamant at stopping her from her own decision-making process in how large her family could be by virtue of, this pregnancy. And if she took this to term, the likelihood that she would have to have a cesarean section, a third cesarean section, because she's had 2 others, would likely cause her uterus to rupture. And she wanted not to have that happen so she could go home, heal, and try for another baby. And somehow she is anti-life and he is pro-life. Do you understand through the looking glass? Okay. So she needed to leave Texas, and the vigilante law would have rewarded anybody helping her, including her husband, who's facing, charges. I mean, the second that they come back, her husband is going to be asked questions by the Attorney General of Texas about whether or not he helped his wife flee the state, about whether or not he helped his wife obtain an abortion elsewhere. Really? Really? Because she's a handmaid now, and she is the property of Ken Paxton. But here's the really ugly part about why you can't live in Texas. So Ken Paxton sent a letter to all the hospitals in the area, in Houston, in the whole area, telling them that if they helped her in her time of medical need, if they helped her, they could be facing life in prison. The doctors could. The hospitals would be sued, and he hadn't decided in this letter whether he would sue them civilly or criminally, but that they would be facing the bar of justice with him as the prosecutor, as Attorney General of the state of Texas. So you understand what that means, right? It means if you're an OBGYN, you're not going to practice in the state of Texas because of the felon Ken Paxton, the fraud. You can't live there anymore. You understand? Florida also has a 6-week ban. You can't live here either. You can't live here either. Anyway, no travel ban. Yay! Don't have time to listen to the live show? Want to hear more on your schedule? Go to randyrhodes.com and buy a stinking podcast.